Today we're going to talk about how to add integers. The first set of questions that we're going to talk about are how to add two integers that have the same sign. Now, if you haven't heard of the bubble method, this might be a really good way to start adding integers for you. So how this works is problem number 1 says positive 12 plus positive 7. When I say that I'm looking at two integers that have the same signs, that means that I want to look at integers that have a positive and a positive. In order to add two integers that are both positive, you can think of it like the bubble. We have positive 12, so in my bubble I would draw 12 positive signs. And then I would add to my bubble 7 positive signs. And so what do I have overall? I have 19 positive signs. And so my answer is 19. Now, the same thing works for if you have two negatives. So problem number 2 says I have negative 6 plus negative 10. So if I think of the bubble, in the bubble I have 6 negatives. And now I'm going to add to the bubble 10 negatives. So how many negatives do I have total? I have 16 negative signs. And so therefore my answer is negative 16. Kind of get the idea? It's not too impressive when you're doing same signs, but once we get to problems where we're doing different signs, it'll look a little cooler. Okay, you go ahead and try the next two problems. Pause the video and then check your answers when you're done. Okay, let's see what you got. So for number 3, we have negative 5 plus negative 12, which is negative 17. And then negative 12 plus negative 3 is negative 15. Great job. Okay, so now let's look at some problems where we are going to add integers that have different signs. And so what I mean by different signs is that here in number 5, I have positive 5 added to negative 8. So the signs of the two numbers are different. If I were to use the bubble for this problem, the first thing I would need to do is take 5 positive signs and draw them in the bubble. Great. Now I'm going to add to the bubble 8 negative signs. Now, notice that I have both positive and negative signs inside my bubble. Well, when I have a positive and a negative put together, it's like they cancel each other out because they're opposites. So we have all of these opposites that are going to cancel each other out. Okay, so now what do we have left? We have 3 negatives left over. So that means our answer is negative 3. Pretty slick, huh? All right, let's go ahead and try another one. All right, so number 7 says negative 10 plus 4. So pretty much how the bubble works is we want to look at how many negatives we have and how many positives we have, see what we have more of, and then we want to know how many more we do. So like on number 5, we had more negatives than positives. That's why we had negatives left over. And so our answer was negative. How many more negatives did we have? We had 3 more negatives. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 6. We have negative 6 plus 13. So if I think of this like, do I have more negatives or more positives? If I were to draw the bubble, I would have more positives because there's 13 of them. That means that my answer is going to be positive. Now, how many more positive signs would I have? Well, there's 13 positives and 6 negatives. That would make a difference of 7. So that means there are 7 more positive signs. Number 7 says negative 10 plus 4. Again, if I look at the number of negative signs versus positive signs, I have more negatives. I have 10 of them. That means that my answer is going to be negative. How many more negatives do I have? 10 minus 4 is 6. Okay, number 8, 6 plus negative 13. Do I have more positives or more negatives? In this one, I have more negatives because there's 13 of them. That means my answer is going to be negative. How many more negatives do I have? 13 minus 6 is 7. So my answer is -7. Now, when we get to number 9 and we have more than 2 integers, we kind of want to look at it the same way. I have some positives and I have some negatives. So first, let's find how many total negatives that we have by adding -2 plus -3. That would be 5 negatives. So now I'm left with 3 plus -5. I have more negatives than positives, so my answer is negative. And how many more negatives do I have? I have 2. Let's do the same thing with number 10. First, find the total number of negative signs. That would be 11. And then we also have a +2 here. So now I have more negatives than positives. And in fact, I have 9 more negatives than positives. Okay, now the last question, number 11. Something different with number 11 is that they all have an x attached to them. So these are not just integers, they're actually called terms because they have a number and a variable with them. However, we combine them the same way as regular integers, and we look to make sure that they have the same exact variables. So if you notice, the -6 has an x, the 3 has an x, and the -4 has an x. So that means we can add these 3 integers together, and then we're going to end up with an x in our answer. So if I count up my total number of negative terms, -6x plus -4x makes -10x. And now I have to take -10 plus 3, -7. And then since we're talking about terms with an x, that means we put an x in our answer. Now we've come to the part of the lesson where we're going to fill out our foldable. If you've made a foldable for this class, you can go ahead and fill out the top and bottom parts of your addition section. So we need to make sure that we have something that describes how to add integers with the same signs. And then we also need to have something about how to add integers that have different signs. So with the same signs, remember, you really are just adding and keeping the sign the same, thinking about the bubble. If they have different signs, do you have more positives or more negatives? That's going to be your sign. And how many more do you have? That's the number that goes in the answer. The second part of this lesson is writing adding integer problems from words. Here are a couple examples. A submarine was situated 800 feet below sea level. If it ascends 250 feet, what is its new position? Now remember, we need to write an addition problem, so that means our addition problem needs to have a plus sign in it. Let's start with where the submarine was at the beginning. It was 800 feet below sea level. That would mean it was starting at -800 feet. Now, if it ascends 250 feet, that means that it's going to be going up, and so that would be a positive 250. What is its new position? Go ahead and pause the video, take -800 plus 250, and then play the video to check your answer. Okay, you should have gotten -550 feet. Always make sure you label your answers. Number 2, in Buffalo, New York, the temperature was -14 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning. If the temperature then drops 7 degrees, what is the new temperature? So let's go ahead and write an addition problem. The temperature started at -14 degrees. Now the temperature is dropping 7 more degrees. So if something is dropping, that would indicate a negative number. And then -14 plus -7 is -21 degrees. Okay, so at this point, I would like you to pause the video, go ahead and write a couple addition problems for numbers 3 and 4, and then find the final answer. When you're done, press play and check your answers. Okay, here we go. From 800 meters above sea level, Nicole took off in her helicopter and ascended 100 meters. Which integer represents Nicole's elevation now? So, Nicole is starting 800 meters above sea level, so that would indicate positive 800. I'm writing an addition problem, so I need to have a plus sign. And she is ascending 100 meters, which means she is going up in elevation 100 more meters, which gives us an integer of 900 meters. Okay, and number 4. The first hill on a roller coaster rises 122 feet off the ground. It then races towards the ground 118 feet. How many feet off the ground is the cart after this descent? Now to you, this might seem like a subtraction problem, which it kind of is, except that we need to be able to write it using addition. So, the roller coaster rises 122 feet, so that would be a positive 122. Now it's racing towards the ground 118 feet. So since it's going down towards the ground, that would indicate a negative 118 feet. So how many feet off the ground is the cart after this descent? 4 feet. Nice job today.